feels like it's been a while. When the American dream was a Cadillac and the red, white, and blue showed how you act. Things you got, you worked for. You didn't think twice about not locking your door. When people did the right thing with no one around, they looked at each other and found common ground. From the music to the flag, I ain't living in the past. I'm just saying that, oh, I want my country back.
I always wanted a Cadillac. I'm gonna get one day. And it bums me out that I don't have one. You know what, let's talk to Alexis Wilkins about that and many other things. Obviously, country music star and host at PragerU, Alexis Wilkins joins us now. Alexis, there are two things that disappoint me. One, I don't own a Cadillac. And two, that a patriotic song, just a raw patriotic song, even in country music today, is kind of rare, and that bums me out. Even for people who don't like country, you could always bank on country being there, and not as much anymore. How the heck did that happen?
Well, Jesse, I wish I had a Cadillac too. Big fan. But no, I think that music is not immune from the wokeism that we've seen. It's still a part of this culture war that we have going on. And I have always loved country music, and that's the only thing that I've wanted to sing. But I was always relieved that it felt like a safe space for me to, my version of a safe space, right? For me to write patriotic music and things that, people with similar values would appreciate. But between the industry and just the shifts that have happened in the last couple of years, it's definitely changing.
It is changing. Why? Is it the university system? Now, I was always too dumb to ever get on a college campus, but you actually got on one. Is that where all this stems from? Is it earlier? Is it parents? What is it?
I think that universities definitely have an agenda with students. It's pretty obvious when you're in school, and it's pretty obvious when you're watching school from the outside. You can see kids go into a class 30 by 30 and come out completely radicalized to the left's agenda. It's not really, they're not hiding it. And I think that culture is influenced by this, absolutely. I think that it's coming from the bottom with students in universities, but it's also coming from the institutions and the big money that are making it that way, from big institutions in country music to big universities that are really responsible for everything we're seeing with these kids.
Why the institutional capture for them, especially when it comes to things like country music or NASCAR, which I don't even like, but I've always liked, the patriotic part of it. These institutions that have been traditionally ours, we lost them. And that's weird. Are these big institutions just hiring a bunch of commie nerds out of Harvard? Is that the problem?
Kind of. I think it's always you follow the money, you're going to get the answer. I think that it's definitely agenda that's well funded. But I also think that we have culture that used to be ours, and I say ours generically because, I definitely identified with country music, and I think a lot of other people with the same values do too. But I think we're seeing these industries, NASCAR, country, Budweiser, weaponized against us because they tend to breed a culture of independent thinking. And that's really what it is. If you're critically thinking, if you're actually individually thinking, so much that goes on at universities is under the veil of being an individual, when really the approach to openness and being open to everything, you're not discerning about anything, which is why these kids are so malleable and they come out the other side very different than they went in. And I think parents are chastised for being helicopter parents. I remember that phrase kind of came up as I was growing up, and parents just, they didn't want to infringe on their kids' privacy. They didn't want to, they were so worried about these things that weren't a conversation before social media, before cell phones. And so you have these parents that are worried about being helicopter parents. They don't want to seem overbearing. It's been so demonized to be overbearing. And then you have the kids as a result of that. And it's the reason I say it's institutional is because I don't think it's an accident.
Yeah, I don't think it's an accident either. You know what? This is going to sound like a weird question, but I am curious. Speaking of parents, there are parents out there undoubtedly watching right now who have a very talented young lady or young man who wants to get into the music business, and they're worried about the direction it goes. You're somebody who's done it. You're making your way through it. Do you have any words of advice or even caution for them as they push their little one out into what can be a very ugly industry?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be a very ugly industry. I think that my biggest caution would be the things that you're already worried about are there. You know, these are things that you should be fearful of. You're not overreacting or over worried for no reason. What I will say is the way that my parents raised me with the values that I have, between going off to university and not being swayed. And it's like I said, it's on purpose. I mean, the college I went to separated the parents and the kids in orientation. And they said, you know, you're raised up to a certain point by your parents, but now, you know, we're going to tell you, we're going to teach you a new way to think, or you should be open to new things. I mean, they do it from day one. And so the things that you're worried about at university, the things that you would inherently be worried about in the entertainment industry, as long as your kids have really steadfast values, they're not embarrassed of them, they're not worried about sticking out for themselves. There are so many paths of independent music now where you don't have to sign on with any version of an institution. You don't have to be signed to a label. You know, everything is so really, you can use social media to your benefit. You can use all of these things in order to not sacrifice your values. And so I don't think it's for lack of a better term, a moral death sentence to go into the music industry. While you are asked to sacrifice things, you don't have to. And so I like to tell people that, you know, you can still do the things that you love and promote the things that you believe in. There's really not a limiting factor to that, as I think there once was. And I think it's inspiring for other people. And so I would say, you know, go forth cautiously and be a part of your kid's life. Ask a lot of questions. I know my parents have been a huge part of my life, and I've been really grateful for it because, you know, I have a contract and I make sure that they look at it, or I make sure that we get someone to look at it. You know, these things it's good to have a second set of eyes. And I think this generation has pushed parents out a little. And I would just say, you know, keep parents in. I'm a big advocate for keeping parents in.
Do you ever write a song about Red Lobster?
No, but I feel that I should now.
Absolutely. I feel you should too. Write that song and we will debut it right here on I'm Right. Alexis, thank you so much. Best wishes to you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.